So this was the board that is corroded big time on the bottom. So I just gave this a thorough cleaning with the simple green. I called it evergreen last night, but it's simple green. And that stuff kind of dissolves the stuff. You can see it foaming up and stuff. I don't know what's in it, but it really looks like it improved it a lot. This board might accidentally work now. But I'm sure there's going to be repairs. I'm sure some of the corrosion has eaten the traces here and there. But anyway, so clock circuit's going to need to be all the chips, or not all chips, the crystal and the capacitors and the resistors, and maybe some chips. All this area here probably should be removed, cleaned thoroughly, and then put back together to get the clock stable. Right now the clock, or at least before I cleaned it, the clock was not stable. But I just wanted to show you how much better it looks. I mean, it still looks pretty bad, but it's a lot better than it was. And I wouldn't be surprised if this works better just from the cleaning. But before I start doing anything, I gotta let it dry. I'm gonna leave it out here in the sun for an hour or so. Hopefully the wind and the sun will dry it. And then I'll bring it back in and start looking at it. Okay, so I'm returning to the first board that I worked on. The one that plays without any problems. First of all, I want to clarify something. I mentioned this overlap here. That is a logic error, but it's not a problem with the game. I did some reviews online. I watched some videos on YouTube, and boards that are 100% working have that little dot there, that little dark region. They didn't put the logic necessary to sense the right side of that wall. It only senses the left side. That's why the ball goes all the way to the left side of that wall. But on this one, it hits the left side of the wall, which is on the inner part of the playfield. You see that? That ball hits the left side of this wall, and it comes back down. This one hits the left side of this wall, but it has to travel through the wall itself to get to it. You see what I'm saying? So this is a logic bug in the game, and that's why that bright square there. Let me see if I can zoom in so you can see what I'm saying. That bright square there, it's the intersection of this line and that line. It's brighter. So it's a logic error in the design. It's not an actual problem with the board because that's just the way it is. All right, so anyway, this board didn't have audio, and I messed around with it, and I did some stuff, and then I realized the unregulated voltage is probably going to be more than 5 volts. All right, so what I did was I added a switch to my harness that lets me turn on 12 volts for that unregulated voltage. And with that, it's high enough to power the audio amp. So let me flip it on. All right, it's on. So now, this is only for testing purposes. I won't leave this on for very long because this is going to heat up, especially if there's a resistor there. The resistor is removed on this one. I don't have one for this. And also, it's not a good thing to have when you're using a switching power supply. It gets hot. So this might get warm as I'm using it. And this is just to test audio, and once it's confirmed, I'll switch that back off. So let me start a game. All right, we should have audio. There it is. Now, some of these boards, the audio works with 5 volts. I've got at least one board that does that. I don't know why, unless it's a newer version of the LM380. Maybe they had different power requirements, or maybe not necessarily all right, so that's a mistake. This is set on 3 balls or 5. It's set on 5 balls, and it only played 1 ball, so that's a problem. Let me switch it to 3 ball and see if that works. Anyway, so what I was saying about the audio amp, there may be different versions of that audio amp that can work at 5 volts. That's all is what I'm basically saying. It's not a revision, I don't think. I think it's just a design choice. You know, they offer a 5 volt amp. All right, let's see if this is going to work. Okay, so now I'm getting to play more than 1 ball. I don't know what that is. That was weird. Something else to look at, I guess, if it can be repeated. All right, so audio's working on this board. I'm gonna call this one done, but I'm not gonna call it done. I'm gonna look and see if I can figure out why it only played one ball. That was weird. Seems to be doing perfect right now. All right, so I will look at this, and if there's anything I can discover, I'll explain it. Otherwise, I'm gonna move on to the next board. Well, I couldn't reproduce that problem on the previous board, so I'm moving back to this one, the one that has all the corrosion here. Here's what we have now after I cleaned it. It's different. If I mess around with the clock circuit, I can get it to stabilize on a normal picture. Well, where are you? Uh-oh, it went away. You can kind of see a single set of bricks instead of 4 sets of bricks like what we were seeing yesterday. Basically, yeah, this thing is so finicky. I'm going to need to take all these pieces out and clean up the area with sandpaper and then reinstall fresh parts, I think. I can't get it to stabilize. Every once in a while it'll focus in on one let me go from underneath and see how that goes. Oh, there it was briefly. All right. Well, anyway, let me work on this area here. Remove these pieces, clean it up, and see if I can get some good connections. Apparently, these connections to these components aren't very good. You move them, you touch them, it changes the image, changes the frequency. All right, let me do that, and I'll be back. All right, well, I redid this whole circuit. I think it's pretty good, but I didn't have another crystal, so I put the old one back in. I'm gonna have to order some of these. These are 14.318 megahertz. I believe that's the problem. That's what I'm getting. It's stable. I can put my hands on stuff and it doesn't change. I can jiggle things. Another thing is this chip here, this inverter. It might be bad too, but I think it's okay. I think the crystal's the problem. So I've got to fix that before I can continue with this one. I've spent like 3 or 4 hours redoing this. It was a mess. It was just had a lot of corrosion and decay, and had to clean it up, and a lot of the through holes were screwed up, so I had to do some special engineering. Really only 2 jumpers were needed though, and when it boils down to it, and one of them was that ground there that was already a problem before I started. So I think I'll get some of these 7404s, regular ones. You can't put an ALS or an LS in there. It needs to be a regular one. The technology requires it. All right, that's it for today. Looking forward to working on this, but you can see this is a lot cleaner. It's a lot cleaner than it was. So all of that was just covered in corrosion when I started, and this board is starting to look pretty good. I took a little Dremel and I dremeled off a lot of the rust and stuff on the other chips. So maybe I caused some damage somewhere, you know, but right now the oscillator's not right. That's what's got to be fixed first. It looks close, and I mean we're obviously getting a clock, but the clock is wrong. It may be too fast, but anyway, I'm just beating a dead horse here. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.